All right, cool. So, welcome back, people, ladies and gentlemen, and anything in between, to another episode of What Suits You. Introduce yourself, man, for the second time since I lost the first one.
I know, man. I'm Jamal Taylor. I work United States Air Force Fire Department. I'm from California. I don't know what else you want me to tell you, man.
I want you to tell the people about your baby mustache that I always make jokes about.
So it's actually not a baby mustache anymore. So I got rid of the baby mustache.
It's now a teenage mustache.
Because I fucking I trimmed it too much, and then I had to trim it all off, and then I had a baby face.
Oh man!
Right, and that wasn't working. Yes. Ladies didn't like it, but most of all, McKay was giving me a whole lot.
McKay?
Yes.
Wow.
A lot of heat.
That is not the person.
Not the person. I was like, you were too invested in my look. So, yeah. So I'm growing it back out, trying to get thick again. So.
Yikes. Yeah. Now, as a person that is team baby faced, we don't want you. We don't want you. We don't want you on our team, man, at all. We don't want you,
man. Hey, don't be afraid to be great, man. That's all I'm saying.
Here we go. We have this kind of talk at work as well, so it's kind of funny, like when people see this or hear this at least. But no, man. So jumping right into it. I know last time. Well, first let me kind of give context. So we did this episode before.
Yeah.
We did a whole. I think it was like an hour. Episode, but I got locked out of my laptop, and now I don't have access to it. I didn't email it; it's just stuck on that hard drive. So last time we talked about the riots that were going on in America, and how people were reacting to the George Floyd case, and now it kind of seems like people stopped talking about it. It kind of seems like it just kind of fell to the wayside, and no one really quote unquote cares anymore. What's your kind of take on that?
I'm not gonna go ahead and tag it with nobody cares. I just think that's just that's American society altogether, just in a whole. It's just the flavor of the month, and I don't think death in that sense is any less. So it's I think it lasted for. At least the brunt of it went as far as it went because of all the problems that we do have in America surrounding injustices and everything.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it has kind of died down. The talk about diversity and the workplace, at least in the military.
That is true. That was one good, like I say good, good thing that came of that is that people weren't afraid to it's like people that may have been like, well, I don't know if it happens with this, that, and the third. Like, they saw it happen, and they were like, oh, shit. This is a problem that needs to be addressed and talked at all levels of the military, and I feel like throughout. So that was definitely one good thing.
So regardless of, I guess there's two, and there shouldn't be, but there's two sides to this. I guess you could say the conservative and the liberal version of it, because it always gets politicized at some level. But regardless of that, on the human level, it doesn't matter what the backstory is. Everybody saw what they saw. Everybody saw what they saw. So whoever you are and however you took that, all right, that's you have to deal with that internally. So I think I
didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that part is what the real issue is. Is people don't really know how to deal with themselves internally. You know what I mean? It's very easy to say, well, that person did this and that person did that, and that contributes to the problems in society or America, right? That's very easy. Everyone does that flawlessly, and some people even get paid for it. But it's hard to be like, okay, how do you contribute to those problems? And most people will be, well, I don't. It's like, in some way you probably do. You're just not privy to it. You're not turned on to it. Yeah. And I feel like if more people, myself included, obviously, kind of tuned in to their shortcomings, not to beat themselves up, but to be like, okay, I have a broader understanding of what the situation is, and I understand how I play into it. It kind of makes it. I feel like that's the way forward. Is if everybody kind of gets on the same page with that.
Yeah, it's on the human level. I think everybody was able to say to himself, like, how how do I help change this, because if any for not saying it's a good thing, but black people kind of have a head start on, especially black Americans, because we see it in so many different, we've seen it in so many different ways over the last, I would say the last decade, especially with the rise of social media and
Facts, yeah.
and internet coming into going over its adolescent stage at this point. Yeah, we just been like, we knew it was happening before the internet, because that's how we were raised. All right, and wherever you were raised, it was even more prevalent in those areas.
Yeah.
The internet just exposed it.
I agree.
And then all of a sudden, it seemed like, oh, this is just now happening, and we tried to explain that it wasn't just now happening. Now we have clear documentation. You can't avoid it, but it wasn't until that specific event, for whatever reason, that specific event. There was other clear reasons.
Yeah.
All right. And you can pick either one of them.
Right.
But that one was as clear as it could get.
And I also feel like, people are creatures of habit.
Yes.
Right. And I feel like when we saw all of the other cases, the Trayvon Martin case, the Michael Brown case, things like that. I don't know exactly why, but people were still kind of brushing it off because there was quote unquote leadway on, well, maybe or what if, you know what I'm saying? There was that. Although to me, I disagree with that outlook, but I still would talk to people and hear them out to see why we disagreed. With the George Floyd case, people that I knew I would disagree with, they were still like, yeah, he shouldn't have died. But like, you know what I'm saying?
They were trying.
Well, yeah, but it's hard to. It was a lot harder for people to kind of deny the truth, and I think that's the reason why it blew up. But I don't think that George Floyd's case would have been what it was without the Trayvon Martin case, the Michael Brown case, the various other cases. Like I feel like if that would have happened back then, I feel like people probably still would have tried to weasel away. Because you still have people.
So if it wasn't Trayvon Martin, it would have been somebody else.
True, I agree with that.
These things didn't just, like I said, didn't just start happening.
Agreed.
It's been happening. It's unfortunate that it gets politicized. All right, but these things have been happening all last 100 years.
Yeah.
And it's worse in some areas. So George Floyd, there will be another George Floyd. Just know there will be another.
There was black dudes hanging from trees, and was it California? Wasn't it like a week afterwards? But that wasn't the story.
Because nobody saw it happen. A black girl was hung in a white dude's garage. Right? But it's like she committed suicide. And nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, that was crazy to me.
Breonna Taylor.
Yes.
So Breonna Taylor, emergency medical technician. All right, known in her community for all the things that she does, known in her profession for all the things that she did. And they confused her home for whatever reason, whatever the laws were in that period of time, that they could just come into your house and do whatever they need to do. And they fucked up her and her partner and her whole home and she died in the process. But because there wasn't a video camera just dialed in on this stuff. It's kind of like, did it happen? But to me, I'm like, we're both first responders.
Right.
I'm like, if the first responder
that part is crazy.
If the first responder community, all right, the EMS community, the medical community cannot figure out how to make this happen.
Yeah.
All right. We need to hold other first responders in the law enforcement area accountable, because if we kill somebody, we get held accountable.
There's no what if. There's none of that. It's off the rip. It's like you're held liable. And you will be held accountable for this person's life. 100%.
And we show up on scene if there's a situation where the patient is out of control and whatever, we call law enforcement in. They do their thing. But as soon as they've done their thing, step back, let us do our thing. All right. And if
And that's inside and outside of the military,
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that something hasn't happened in that scope, just take black and white out of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, take that out of it. She's a first responder. Other first responders did the wrong fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Handle it.
Yeah.
World, United States.
Yeah.
Handle it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You got to arrest those cops for sure.
Yeah.
And I agree, you know, and that was definitely one thing I found interesting. Like, at first looking at it, I was like, okay, obviously, you know, a black woman's killed. Yes, those cops should be arrested. But then when I found out that she was a first responder, I was like, how the hell are these people still free? Like, that part to me was crazy. And I haven't heard the other side of it because I don't really think there is another side of it. I don't think there's anyone trying to defend those police officers.
No.
Because like you said, if you look at it for what it is, you had a first responder kill another first responder with no justification.
One of the police officers was fired instantly because
I didn't know that.
Because he fired indiscriminately into the building without seeing anyone.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I don't know if he was fired because he possibly could have killed one of his partners, or he just did because he was endangering the safety of the public. In which case, if he was endangering the safety of the public, they all should be held to the same.
I'm about to say that's still There's no way around that.
It's things like that I was like, okay, take black. In this case, take black and white away. But the thing is, nobody can. If you can't see it, just like Trayvon Martin, like if you can't see it, all you can do is put yourself in your place. And if you're not black, and unfortunately for our white brothers and sisters, it's incredibly hard for them to put themselves, even if they come up in the same areas and whatever that are like just hard live areas.
Yeah.
It's hard for them to associate themselves with that.
Facts.
Because there's just and I just watched the video on Megan Thee Stallion or whatever. She justified the reasoning for not telling the police officers that she was shot.
I saw that,
And her justification was she didn't want the police officers to escalate the situation and kill everybody.
That was man. First of all, I put on my face. You probably saw it. I put on Facebook that I think Tory Lanez is a bitch and he's a beta.
Yeah.
First of all, for violence against women, like there's as a man, as a person, but especially I think as a man, there's a million ways to handle situations, right? Especially when you're dealing with women. If someone makes you upset, walk away. The fact that he pulled a gun out on her and shot her, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yes.
But I saw that she dropped it on World Star, reposted it. And I was like, that's a very solid point. That's a very interesting point. And she was like, how can I tell these people that this guy has a gun in the car and then they fuck around and shoot and kill everybody? I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
But see, that's the thinking
yeah.
that we go through on that level or some
and it's
level.
hard and it's hard for other people to associate with, well, why didn't you tell the police? Why didn't you just roll your window down? Why didn't you just
I was talking to a member of our department a little while back, and I was telling him my situation a little while back when I got pulled over.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
And he was explaining. He's like, why did you ask for the badge? And I was like, dude,
you don't get it.
I was like,
you don't get it, man.
I was like, I needed to make sure we got home, and we were where we didn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if they decided in that moment that we were threats,
it would have been a wrap.
It would have been their word against 3 black guys, and we'd have been, or 4 black guys, and we would have been 4 black guys, not a black guy and half and third white people. No, not a UCLA, US San Diego State University. All right, high school.
That's another point.
Air Force back. It would have been 3 black guys and 2 cops, and we handled it.
Yeah. That's the thing, man. Yeah, people don't see. People can't look at you and be like, "Oh, this person's probably well educated." This person is probably this. This person's probably that. It's we as a society, we judge off of appearances so much that in the grand scheme of things, that's so little content to place such a grandiose judgment on people. Like, oh, this person looks this way, therefore they must be that way. And it's like, you don't know. You know what I mean? You have no context to that person's life whatsoever, but yet and still, because again, this goes back to people looking in themselves and go, why do I feel this way? Why do I do the things that I do? Which is difficult. But you have no context for this person's life, and yet and still you determine that they're a threat based off of what you associate threats with. Yeah. You know,
and maybe I was wrong to kind of like degrade myself and let all those things happen. But to me, I knew if they had all the control in that situation, all right,
you would make it home alive.
Yeah, we'd make it home alive.
Yeah,
because I knew. Because they walked up with their hands on their pistols. All right, they instantly tried to start some shit with me as the driver. It wasn't until we were out sitting on the curb, and then they had gone through our car to figured out that we were snowboarders. You know, just having a vacation. So
in that situation, it shouldn't even. You said that maybe you would have been wrong. You know, that shouldn't be the standard. The standard should be respect. You know, like it should start like they always say that respect is earned, and I think that in some cases, okay, sure, but when you're providing a public service, take firefighters for example. We don't hop up on scene assuming anybody is at fault for the fire.
Yeah.
We hop up on scene and go, there, you know, life safety, incident, you know, mitigation, and then property. That's what we're thinking. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, we go into investigation. Okay, let's see what happens. But we're not walking up like, you come here. What happened? We're not. Hey, is there anyone? Like, we're trying to help. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if police officers came in, and you said this the last time as well, and I had time to think about it as well as other things that you said. We get up on scene and we try to help. You know, we're given the respect of like, hey, give us all the information you can so we can help you. If cops did the same thing, hey, you know, I just wanted to stop you guys real quick. You know, what is actually going on? You guys are, you know, that goes a long way than walking up with your hand on your weapon going, you guys step out of the car. It sets the tone completely different for the rest of the altercation. And some people come from really fucked up backgrounds to where everyone has certain triggers. You know what I'm saying? Someone could have been hurt or abused in their lifetime. You grab their wrist and now everything else is out of the window. That degree is out of the window. They're acting purely on traumatic experiences that they've had that you have no idea about. Because again, you're not trying to get to know this person. This person is a threat to me. So you're walking up, approaching this person as a threat and not as someone who's trying to help. And I think that's like the very, very big thing between police officers. Another thing that we talked about last time, we talked about taking away personal choice, and I disagreed with you. I disagreed with you. Now not so much. Now I kind of get it. Now I kind of get what you're saying. I just think that's unfortunate, you know. And I kind of look at it more. If we're talking in terms of like psychology, there's parts of your brain that are still primitive. Everyone's brain that are still primitive. The parts like the amygdala that deal with emotion, and the parts like the hippocampus that deal. Oh wait, no, amygdala deals with fear, I believe. Those parts of your brain are still very, very primitive. So that's why like when people snap, they do something completely irrational, and then when they're back in their like common sense of being civilized, they're like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have did that. I probably shouldn't have thrown that TV off the fifth floor onto that car or whatever. I think now it's more of a thing of evolving, I would say. You know, again, going back to I keep going back to it because I think it's so important. Looking inside yourself to go, right, what makes me tick and why, and kind of breaking yourself down, or not in a bad way, but like really getting to understand yourself. Because once you understand yourself, your interactions with people, you kind of teach people how to treat you based on interactions. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey man, you know, I didn't like it when you said this, that, and the third. Could you not do that? Oh shit, my bad. I didn't even look at it that way. But now that you've made it known, you know, I have to respect that. Or at the very least, I should respect that. You know, I have to respect that and go, all right, cool, my bad. You know, and then we move forward and go from there. But if you just allow people to keep pushing you, they're gonna think that that's normal until one day you snap. Like you were telling me, you know, at your last base or whatever, you know, they kept pushing you, and you were like, yo, I will fuck everybody up in here. Like it's moments like that that's the turning point to where it's like, yo, this is where I am, this is what I stand on, and if you don't like it, that's fine. We can agree to disagree, but don't try to get me out of, you know what I'm saying, what I'm trying to do here. So I think that's super important, and I think that people really should kind of look into themselves to kind of go, all right, like I see where I'm kind of messed up, or I can see how I can get myself into certain situations that wouldn't be ideal. Let me work on that and let me go from there.
That's everyone.
Yeah. Another good point that you brought up as well. I don't know if you can recall everything how it was exactly.
As soon as you say it, it comes.
You already know what I'm talking about.
As soon as you say it,
with like the 5 ways forward, like was it the education, the reform, and stuff like that. Could you just kind of dive into that really quick?
So let me see if I can remember the specific order.
You gotta rub those temples, man.
Yeah, man. Let me see because I don't got my notes with me, man. I did think about it. And last time I haven't really dove into it because it's like you said, it's been a minute.
Yeah, that was a while ago too.
Yeah, it was almost 3 months ago, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let me see here. So, the first one, I was like, we need to.
I think the first one was education.
So the first
because
one,
that drove all the other ones, if I'm not mistaken.
It was education, and then at the same time, we need to use our voting power. To get people.
Mm-hmm.
We need to move people. Those two things need to happen at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We have the tools to educate. Anybody wants to be educated. You have YouTube. You have the internet. You have all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Educate yourselves on everything, and especially being during the whole COVID situation, is never a better time to fucking just exercise that.
Yeah,
but we need to figure out who our representatives are.
Mm-hmm.
One, as overall as Americans, we need to figure out who our representatives are, and two, this goes back to the black community and building up the black community. We need to figure out who we are being represented by. And it doesn't need to always be liberal or conservative or Republican or Democrat. All right, that just needs to be something that is specific to us and our immediate communities. Because I think we all agree, at least in the black community, we all agree that our needs are just different. And just different. And we need to stop relying on the current system to satisfy those needs. Only people who can satisfy your needs are
people
yourself.
that come from that community.
Exactly. So that's what we need to do. We need to educate ourselves, and we need to get on point with our politics. Not so much our politics, but who's representing us. Because that's just, we're really weak in that area. And no offense to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, all right, but those are just stand-ins. That really are. And people ain't gonna like what I'm about to say, but but right now, like there's a part of me that still wants to vote for Donald Trump. There's a part of me that wants to vote for Donald Trump because me, I think of I'm thinking of all the things he's done to free up, you and when it comes to taxes, when it comes to the military and everything, like he's not made it better, but kind of made it less traffic. All right, for businesses, it's better for businesses.
Yeah, that is true.
Under his presidency, like again, he may not have made nothing super special. He just opened up more avenues.
I feel like he kind of leveled the playing field.
Yes,
he kind of made everything. Like, not so far left, not so far right. It's at zero.
Yes. And
when things are at zero, it's up to the individual to go up or down.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny you say level the playing field, because that's one of his things, is he's attempting to level the playing field. And all the little words that he likes to use and describing what he's trying to do. He just needs to just say it.
Yeah, I don't think he's a good talker.
He's a horrible talker.
Yeah, because obviously it's easy, and this is kind of one of the things that I did. It's very easy to not like him, but based off of what he says, it's just, oh, this guy, he says this and that, like that's crazy. But when I really started to kind of look at his policies, I was like, I actually don't disagree. Now, there's some policies I was like, okay, yeah, I don't agree with that at all. Morally, legally, whatever the case may be. There's some policies where I'm like, okay, that needs to go.
Yeah.
But I wasn't in that headspace when Obama was president, so I can't say that he had all the policies that I would agree with. For me, it was just like, we have a black president, I'm fine with that. And that's so detrimental to the black community, to say that all we need to do to be satisfied is just have someone that looks like us and we're happy. That's so detrimental. And it was good, Rap music got better. You know, it was like, it was good. And Obama's crazy, like very, very educated, very, very well spoken. And I'm sure that it would be the same, that he would have policies that I'd be like, yes, I can get on board with that. And then he would have policies that I was like, I can't really like that. And Trevor Noah kind of said this as well. He was saying that, like, I wish people treated politics like they treat sports teams.
Yeah.
If they have a horrible quarterback, they're not going to be like, well, just do away with football. They're going to be like, replace that quarterback. Let's get a new quarterback. Right? If Obama or Trump or whoever had a policies that I didn't like and I still wanted to vote for them, I'd be like, yes, I voted for that person. However, I didn't like this policy, right? And even more so, the president isn't really the person that has all the power. It's the people in Congress. And those elections happen, what, every two years after the presidential elections, or every 2 years or something like that?
End up staying
and
in.
nobody votes.
Nobody.
That isn't pushed. I haven't seen, my 24 years of being alive, I haven't seen one Congress member drop like a campaign or like a campaign speech. Or those are the people who are deciding how much welfare people get. Those are the people deciding the laws down to the trafficking lights. Like, those are the people who we really need to be focusing on.
Down in infrastructure.
But we don't.
Yeah.
It's all the president, and you voted for who? Like, right now, if I was 18 and you were like, I voted for Trump, and I just looked at like the memes and stuff, I'd be like, oh, this podcast is over. How could you? Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? But it's so much more than just the presidents and the presidency. It's really like looking at change. Like you said, we need to understand that our needs are different, and we need to vote people into positions of actual power. The president, yeah, okay, they might have some power given the three branches, but it's really down to the people in Congress. It's really down to the people writing the laws and pencil whipping them and making them better for some people and worse for others. That's what we really should be focusing on, to go, right, yeah, this I can't stand behind, and here's why, and I want to educate people on it and go on from there. And I'm not super educated on it, but I'm coming to realize it's like, yeah, something's not right. And again, I'm going to keep going back to this the whole podcast. It goes back into looking into yourself to go, what don't I know? You know what I'm saying? Like, what don't I know? I don't know, I can't name one person in Congress off rip. I can't even, I have no idea. The last person I knew or thought that was in Congress was like Condoleezza Rice, and I haven't seen anything about her since like an episode of Guy Code on MTV. Yeah. So it's been a minute, to say the least. But again, that's something that I know. And now I can go, right, I know I don't know that. Let's learn about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's learn about it. Let's educate ourselves on it. And then when I can talk to people who disagree to, again, not to argue, but in attempts to broaden my horizons. Because I know no matter what I learn or what I know, there's always going to be someone that disagrees. And I enjoy talking to people I disagree with, because then I can see really that we really just want the same thing. I've talked to people that I say that are racist, and they think that well, I shouldn't say they think. To them, they aren't racist, right? And when I talk to them, I don't want to give names because I haven't, got their consent. But when I talk to them, it's really just like they feel that, America is unfair, and they feel like because it's unfair, their freedoms are at risk or in jeopardy. And I'm like, dude, we want the same thing. We feel the exact same way about the same system. We just have two different perspectives on it based on our life experiences. And when you break it down like that, it's almost impossible not to move forward. And disagreeing and agreeing to disagree isn't not moving forward. It's like, I don't agree with your perspective, but I agree with your destination.
Yes.
The destination is equality and at least trying to make things better for everyone. Like, for example, you've seen, I've been on YouTube, and I said I was going to make a video called Why Women Seek Validation. A lot of women were like, don't fucking make this video. So I'm still going to do it.
So I saw the promos, if you will, for that. And I was just like, oh my goodness. I was like, if he is not just dousing the room in gasoline, oh my gosh. All right, and he just took that match and he just flicked it. I was like, I was like, first of all, I know what Pink's doing.
I know you do.
Yeah, I was like,
I know you do. I don't have to explain it to you at all.
I was like, this could be his stance, but more than likely, he just wants people to talk.
No, for sure.
Yeah, he just wants people to talk, and So, and I started reading some of the immediate comments, and I was like, he got what he needed.
Yeah,
he got what he wanted.
Yeah, it worked out exactly how I kind of
like,
wanted it.
And I was like, perfect. Because now you're all talking about it. Perfect. You're all talking about it. You have to say something. And some of them were wild, and some of them were like, well, blah 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 blah. You should do it. Like, hey, how do you feel about it? And that's what you do. And you created the forum, and put it out there. That was genius.
Yeah.
That to me that was genius.
And when people actually see the video, I don't want to dive into the context of it because I'm dropping this today, and that video will be dropped tomorrow.
Yeah.
When I was writing because I like to write notes like for bullet points for at least so I can kind of, keep my train of thought. When I was writing it, I was like, people are really gonna enjoy that video. Whether they agree or disagree, there's gonna be parts where people disagree. There's gonna be parts where we're like, all right, okay, cool. I can kind of see that. At least from my perspective. I think when people actually see that video, they're gonna be like, okay, okay, I see what you're saying, and I see your point of view. And now, whether they agree or disagree, that's on them.
Are you going to have a female available?
So this is kind of going into the context.
If you don't want to,
no. It's not that. So it's going to be an ongoing thing.
Okay.
So it's not just gonna be like I do one video of it and I never talk about it again. I'm gonna continue to do different parts of it, and that's another reason why I did it with comments.
I almost commented on that, but I was like,
you should have.
No, I was like, nope. I know what he's doing. But
that goes, it plays into the damn
and I had to pull myself back because I was like, nope.
I don't want to play into it.
Nope, I don't want to play into this because I know this is not for me. All right, this is too easy for me.
I'm better than this.
Yes,
me and my pencil mustache will not stand for such mutiny.
Nope. I was like, I'm bigger than this. All right. And I know and I know what he's trying to do, and power to him. Yeah. That's how I left it. And if you absolutely must say something, all right, then good. You now you have to have a conversation. You don't get to comment. And if you're just gonna comment, all right, you're part of the problem. That's it.
I didn't look at it like that, but okay.
If you're just gonna be in there, just spouting off at the mouth, and you don't want to put any good insight into it, just go ahead and put yourself
and that's why when I engage with people, I'm getting better. I don't want to say I do a very good job, and I don't want to say I do a poor job. The only thing I can put my stance on is that I get better every day at removing my own ego from that person's opinion and just going, hey, I hope you watch the video. Because I'm going to say what I want to say and what I need to say in the video. That's off rip, right? I already know what's going to happen with that. But again, if that person agrees, that's on them. And if they disagree, that's on them. If they want to talk about it, I'm more than open to talk about it with people. And, it's just interesting how people don't keep the same energy, though, when it's something that they agree with as opposed to something they disagree with. They don't look at it and go, why do I disagree with this? Or why do I agree with this? They just go, like I dropped a post, I think like maybe an hour after that said if men were really men, there wouldn't be a need for feminism. And a lot of women applauded. It was like one or two of the same women that disagreed with the validation post or like one of my friends, she commented, she was like, oh, I'm glad you're back, Shelly. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I never left. But I didn't want to put that because then that's me. That's my ego. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I don't exactly remember what I said, but I was like, I hope you watch the video. Yeah. I hope you watch both videos because I plan on doing a video for both.
I saw that.
And it's just interesting that everyone does it to a certain extent, that we're so caught up in our own minds and what we think and our own opinions. That's when people say that like, I'm entitled to my opinion. I'm like, yes, but also, are you really? You know what I mean? Are you really like, yes, you're entitled to say it, free speech. Okay, I get it from that point of it. But if we look at it in the terms of psychology, you might not be educated on it. If someone asks me, is like, yo, Shelton, how do you feel about rocket science? I'll be like, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know enough to have an opinion on this. Or I feel that maybe
you're also
perhaps
responsible to your opinion.
I think that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Yes, you have to be held accountable for your opinion.
Yeah, you. Yeah. So if if you have an opinion like, I hate black people,
Mm.
that's good. And everything that comes from that word that came out your mouth, you deserve all the heat and smoke that comes with it.
I mean,
all right, answer the questions. Get ready.
It's crazy. It's crazy because like if your name is on the lease for a house, you're entitled to that house. But also the bill collectors aren't gonna go to your mom and your dad for the money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're gonna come to you like, yo, man, pay up. I think that's very that's what it is. You're responsible for your opinion, and I think people, both men, women, and everyone else, they like to say things that are very controversial, and then not be ready to deal with it, and not be ready to go like, well, yeah, I said that, and I understand where they just like, well, it's my opinion, and that's how I feel. It's like, man, you're not really taking responsibility.
Or in your case, you put out the content,
Mm-hmm.
and then the comments come in.
Yes.
And there's from their perspective, from their conditioning, they just put out their comments, and they don't even know what they just said. They don't know what they know. They think they know what they said.
Yeah.
All right, but then comes somebody from the opposite end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and says, "Do you even know?"
Mm-hmm.
And then they go, "Well, yeah, I do." Well, hold on, let me educate you on some real stuff. And then, if they're not secure inside themselves, they become defensive, and then that's when the responsibility. Now someone has held them accountable to their comment.
Yeah.
So, and in which case you got to be secure and be like, yo, I looked that up. That is wrong. I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I need to understand this better before I start spouting off it.
And I also think it's not, again, I don't think it's a bad thing to disagree with people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because people can have facts and source all these facts from all these quote unquote credible sources. And it's like, okay, well, let's look at it. You know, is this source biased by any chance? Who is it run by? How long has it been up? And not questioning it to be like, I want to, disprove your point to make me right.
Yeah.
But it's like, let's look at what's true.
Yeah.
Let's look at the truth. And the truth is going to be the truth no matter who tells it. But the truth is also uncomfortable. You know, it's very uncomfortable. Sometimes if someone's like, man, like I want to be the next professional football player. Truth is, you can do that. But it's also the truth that you're going to have to work really, really hard. You're going to have to sacrifice and you're going to have to suffer. And that's the hard part. That's the part that's going to wean out the people who just want to make it and the people who are actually going to make it.
Oh.
And it's hard to go, damn, do I really want that? Do I want to get up at 4 a.m. and run for 3 miles? And do I want to eat a certain way and not be able to hang out with my friends in my early years? And this kind of goes into a video that I recorded yesterday that I'm gonna drop today. The art of instant gratification as opposed to delayed gratification, right? I feel like that plays into those insecurities because a lot of people haven't put in the work to really break themselves down and go, man, I kind of suck at this. Mm-hmm. And I know that I suck at it because when I was a kid, I got picked on a lot, and the way I responded to that was X, and it manifested in Y. So now as an adult, I get defensive when people question me. That's hard. That is very hard to do, but it's so important to do, especially when, like you said, you're coming out with these opinions and these comments. It's like, okay, cool, but there's going to be someone that disagrees with you. You could be like, I think equality is the best thing ever. And someone in the back will be, nah, not so fast. And then you have to, and then you have to have that, or not have to, but I think that you should have that conversation with that person to go, well, why do you feel the way that you feel? Why do you disagree? Mm-hmm. Right? And not doing it, because this is one thing that I had to learn, not doing it to invalidate how they feel, but doing it to understand, and also understand that you don't know everything. I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong. And if someone educates me, no matter how they do it, they can call me names, whatever. I'll sift through that. I know who I am on the inside. I'll look for the information that they're providing and go, okay, that's a very solid point that you made. Like somebody checked me the other day with what they say. They were like, if someone comes to you that was born a man and they're like, hey, I want to be called Trisha now, you should just be like, okay, accept it. I immediately was like, how are you going to tell me what, this is like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, how are you going to tell me blah, 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 what I should accept? Like, just kind of flew off the handle. But then when she like broke it down, I was like, yeah, you're right. I was wrong about that. Like, I see where you're coming from, and I see the points that I missed, and I get it. I understand what you, and I had to go back, and I had to take that L. You know what I'm saying? I had to take that L. I wasn't embarrassed, but I was just more like, I still got work to do. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I still have work to do, and that's just one instance. You could name a whole bunch of situations I don't know anything about that you would probably get the same reaction out of me, right? So I realized that's I still have work to do. Kind of backtracking though. So education, right?
Yep.
Politics.
Yep.
And then what was it? Finances. Yeah. Could you kind of go into that as well?
So finances is just a huge. That's a broad statement, but
yeah.
Basically, in the black community, all right, because we have a problem with our politics and we have a problem with our education, all right, and just knowing what we need to know, that goes into knowing our finances and taking responsibility for our finances and taking responsibility for the people who represent us and allocating those finances to where they need to go to inside the community, whether they circulate out and to keep them circulating in, but mainly like we just need to be responsible for what we're spending our money on.
Yeah,
I mean,
man,
I know we're getting better. I know we're getting better at it. At least in the last 10 years, I definitely see a lot of my peers transitioning from mindsets from the materialistic into what their investments are going to be. But a lot of it is because of they became family men. My boys back in the day, the first time I was in Korea, they was out, doing their thing, man, being bachelors, right?
Man.
Just and they was doing the most.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was like, my mindset was like, hey, you guys probably should think about X. You should think about Y. There's no reason why we need to go out and blow this much money.
Yeah.
Go ahead and save $300-$400, all right, and call it good, man.
For sure.
Put into mutual funds, Roth IRAs, and all this other stuff, investments, stocks, and I was talking to all that stuff, but it was white noise to them.
Yeah, you're alienated.
Yeah.
Right. Or at worst, why you talking white? Or why you not maybe not in the military, but I heard that all the time growing up, man. Yeah. And I was like, why is that a thing? But interestingly enough, there's a guy, I was looking at my phone, there's a guy I follow on Instagram. His name is Chris Johnson, and he talks about buying stocks with dividends. And I was like, man, like he lives, he practices.
You understand what dividends are?
Yeah. Yes. Because at first I was like, what does that mean? Like I didn't know what that meant. And he breaks it down. He had like a class on his bio that was like $35, just like an hour and 30 minutes. And I watched it and I was like, oh, okay. So you can buy income, like you can buy money essentially. And I was like, I'm gonna only spend money on buying money. Like that doesn't, like, nothing else makes sense really. Like if I'm not investing in myself financially, I'm investing in myself personally, mentally, or like spiritually. Like money is just a tool. When I kind of switch my mindset to, I want all these things, again, instant gratification. I want all these things. I need all these things in order to be this or be that, to looking at purchases as investments. It's like, okay, why would I invest in going out to eat today when I have food at, like, literally, I hear my mom's voice now.
Yeah.
When I have food at the house. Like,
crazy.
Why would I do that? I already invested in food. Now I've already spent the time. I've already spent the money. Now I just have to spend the time preparing it. Why would I spend money twice to then go back and have to spend the time? Because if I don't, then the food's going to go bad. And then that takes away from the money investment. I might as well just, because you either spend money or time. That's only two currencies you have. So once I started looking at it like that, and I started, looking at people, there's another guy, Derek Grace. I don't know if you heard of him.
I think I might have.
He has tattoos all over his face.
Yeah.
I started looking at his programs and stuff as well, and like listening to what he's saying. He's more like finances, like being a family man, stuff like that. And I understand a little bit of it, but that's just not my situation, so I don't relate to it as much. But when he talks about, again, he talks about, starting your own business and buying money, like nothing else, like that makes the most sense to me. Like, I'm not super educated on it just yet, but I know more now than I did yesterday. And I'm like, why doesn't everyone do this? You mean to tell me I can spend $1,000 on a stock that pays dividends, like I don't know, a 10% dividend, and then every year I'm getting $100 for free? That's passive income.
Yeah.
I only do it once, and I can, as long as they don't pull their dividends, and that goes more into like looking to see how long they've been doing it, how big the company is, so on and so forth. But you mean to tell me I can just spend money and then eventually get money back? Or I can reinvest it if you're talking about drips. Like I use Ameritrade, and they allow you to just hit a button and then boom, you're signed up for drips. So I can just have that money keep going and going and going and going, and I can look back in 2 years. Now, mind you, I'm still doing other things on the side. Yeah, it's not just like I'm like, oh, in 2 years, no, that's that's surprise money waiting to happen. I just look like, damn, I got an extra $2,000 in my account. I'm at the point now where like I got my taxes back, and I called Navy Federal. I was like, someone gave me $300. I don't know what happened, and they were like, no, that's yours, man. That's your taxes. I was like, oh, okay, all right, fine. That's but I want to get to a point where I like every day or like 2 times a week, 3 times a week, I have money just coming into my account. So then I can again invest in myself financially, physically, spiritually, and mentally, and my friends and family as well, to bring up the people around me to go, right, this is how I did it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you could try it as well, and it'll work for you. Because I love my family to death. My family's on a pedestal that nothing can touch, right? But man, I really see the holes. I really see the holes financially and in mindset as well, man. My dad, I'm 24, so that means that my dad is 64, about to be 65 in December, retired, but he still talks about working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's not it. Dude, like that's not it. But honestly, I don't have the heart to tell him otherwise, because I think that he genuinely has been working so long, he loves it. And if you love it, who am I to say otherwise? Maybe I'm just telling myself that so we don't have to have that conversation, or maybe that's actually the case. I haven't found out yet. But I know, like, for me, when I'm 65 and I start looking like you, I'm not trying to be working at all. I'm about to be chilling. Like, what you talking about?
But you gotta think about it too, man.
It's different generations.
It's not even different generations, man. You're 24, man.
Yeah.
Like all the things you just said, you're just trying to get that money. All right, you're trying to get that income. You don't know what the knowledge that you're gonna unlock is gonna. You don't know what that income, and once you have the knowledge and the income and you apply it, you don't know what you're going to unlock. You don't know what avenues you're going to travel down.
That's true.
You don't know.
I'm excited to find out, though.
By the time you get to 40, you can be like, man, I could do this to death. And
I didn't think of it that way.
And it's just because that keeps you alive. It just keeps you alive because it's something you become passionate about. Like the things that interest you and it becomes a lifestyle. You don't think about it being hard. You don't think about being tired. You just think that is true. This is just my life.
That is true. Yeah, that is true for sure.
Let me see here. So we talked about, what is it?
We went into finances just now.
Went into finances. Let me see. What was the other one?
So we got education, politics, finances.
Health was.
Yeah. That was a really big one. Yes. I thought personally. Yep. Yeah, I really like that one.
We need to do better. we need to do.
Health is such a broad thing though, because some would like.
We know. Everybody, look at yourself.
Yeah.
Some of y'all be like, "Oh, I'm healthy." No, you're not.
That's
Stop
true.
it.
That's
you
true.
know.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on. Yeah. Take a good hard look at yourself.
That's true.
Take a good hard look at your pantry. Take a good hard look at your refrigerator.
That's true.
All right. How many times do you step out and get off your butt? Think about it.
That is true. So like with that though, there's some things where we're like, yes, smoking is unhealthy. Drinking excessive alcohol is unhealthy. Those are definites. Obviously, me being vegan, I think that's the healthiest way, and I know that people would disagree because, they say
have their own preference.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So like, I kind of feel like health. I don't. Again, removing myself out of the situation, I think that it's gray. I think that it's very gray because what might be healthy for some, it's healthy for some people to eat 8,000 calories, providing they're exercising and so on and so forth. Some people have conditions to where they don't really grow from exercising. It doesn't do them any good. So, but I still, like, I know that's a small group of people. I'm not saying that's the norm or the majority, but I'm saying, like, health is very, very important. But I also think, again, alluding back, people need to go, what is healthy for me, but not to justify their unhealthy habits. To go, okay, I really should be exercising. I'm 600 pounds. Like, excuse me, this isn't normal.
Yeah.
It's not normal to be like this. Or if somebody's,
if you're 100 pounds over your weight.
I mean, yeah, that's not healthy either.
It literally gets to the point, you wake up in the morning and you're instantly, and somewhere along the beginning of the day, you're like, I'm just out of it. That might be a sense of depression. You look in the mirror.
Yeah, that's true.
You look in the mirror, and you don't like what you're looking at. And it doesn't matter if you have a good physique or you have like an out of shape physique. If you look in the mirror and you don't like what you're looking at, all right, it's time to do some. And the last thing I just like is just self-care. Like you need to take care of yourself. All right, and this has nothing to do, well, has everything to do in the whole, but with the community, you need to take care of your personal, because you're not taking care of your personal. You cannot take care of anybody else.
If you're nasty on the inside, how can you give good energy to other people? Yeah.
And that brings us right back to Tory Lanez.
Oh man.
Yeah. That's one of them.
Yeah.
That's one of them, and it comes out in the music for not just him, other people. And we need to focus on not only just our physical health, but our mental health and our self-love. That's for whatever reason, I would say just Black Americans in general, because of our history in America. I'm like, we've got to be the descendants of some of the most strongest human beings.
Facts.
We have to be. We have to be, because
if not, our race would have got wiped out.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, we got wiped out.
A long time ago. And it's, and at no point in all this craziness have we got together and just said, yo, let's kill all these people, man. Because there's been more than enough episodes in time. I mean, we could have took this right back to the Civil War. All right, and we could have sabotaged the whole thing. We could have sabotaged the whole thing on both sides if we wanted to.
Yeah.
All right, be speaking French.
Yeah.
All right.
Bonjour.
Right. Or we could have gave it back. We could have sabotaged it for everybody except the Indians.
I also think that goes back to mindset though as well. A lot of people weren't. Even now, a lot of people aren't thinking like, okay, we need to uproot the system. Like, and that kind of, I feel like I know what you're saying, but I feel like the term self-care gets blurred a lot because people, again, aren't whole on the inside. So they do things like, oh, I need to get with this person because they have my best interest at hand. It's like, not really. You know what I'm saying? Or I need to get with this person. It's like, again, not really.
So I think during those times, the care was good. I mean, obviously, the
like in the Civil War times, or
like for the people. For the Black Americans at the time, or would-be Black Americans at the time, they knew their situation. All right, whether you were a slave or you weren't a slave, or wherever you were in society, they knew who and where they were. So they understood it. That was just their environment. All right, but they were also a part of the American infrastructure coming up. All right, some might not know how to read, but they were hearing the same things in the streets about. And
freedom. That's the part that's not documented in the history books.
It's not.
Yeah, the way that people learn through their environment, it's not something that's really documented in history. But literally, how you learn in your environment is what builds up your ego.
Yeah.
Is what directly contributes to how your ego operates and functions and works. I think that's a very interesting point, because like even when I took my history class, I was just thinking like they were talking about like how people would have horses that would just die in the street, and then like poorer people would like come and eat the horses. And like hearing that, I'm like, oh man, that's like crazy. But then like I removed myself from that. I'm like, yo, what does that do to you on the inside? Like, I can't even really fathom it. But what does that do to you on the inside? Like, if you're someone whose horse just died, obviously you'd be upset. But someone who's not, you're like, bro, we just got a free meal. But that goes into perception and perspective and everything like that, which is kind of off topic of what we're talking about. But it still plays into your ego, which plays into how you feel on the inside, plays into what you look at as self-care or not. Because some people would do toxic shit, and they'll be like, oh well, I'm this is me practicing self-love and I'm self-care. It's like, not really. No, you're just using that as an excuse to justify your own bullshit.
Exactly. So they decided at that point they wanted maybe not to be their white brothers and sisters Americans, but they wanted to be American. They believed in the words that were being uttered in the streets. They probably never saw the Declaration of Independence. All right, they probably never saw Thomas Jefferson, or
this is way before cell phones and shit. So that's all you had.
They just heard.
And like newspapers.
They were like, yo, I can buy into that shit, And then there was some of them were like, yo, this shit's crazy. Let me go work with them. And then the English were like, hey, you come work for us, and then we'll free you.
And you had people like
some of them were threatened on both sides.
Yeah,
it was the environment for those type of people back then. But fast forward into the future, we're in the military, right? Let's go into World War II, right? When they gave black people weapons that could fly and bomb.
I didn't even think about
fly
this.
Fly and bomb. Yeah. All right. At any one point, an all-black squadron. All-black squadron.
Elite squadron.
That's
why, yeah.
Didn't lose. No bombers. They could have.
That's crazy.
They could have.
I never thought of that.
They could have had a committee that night. They could have had a committee.
Oh my God!
Like, hey guys, this is gonna be our biggest mission. We're gonna have 50 bombers in the skies. What we're gonna do?
Oh man!
What we're gonna do is we're gonna bail. Let the Germans get them. Come back, clean up the rest. Land our planes on German runways, and give them all our secrets. Not only for the war that we're doing, but for the defenses back home.
Damn.
That could have changed the whole fucking war.
That would have changed everything, right? Man.
Fucking Germany would still never been bombarded.
Yeah, no. Right? As soon as you said that, I was like, yo, he's right.
And then, what if you would have gave these elite pilots Messerschmitts, the first jet? They would have been like, what we're going to do is now we're going to put you in jets.
Interesting.
Gang. Right? And we're not going back to America. They could, at any one point, it could have happened. It could have happened during the Vietnam War.
Yeah, because that was when segregation was like mid-swing. Yeah,
and not only were segregation, they were drafting more black people than they were drafting white people. They could have been. Like, they could have went there, somehow made communications with the Viet Cong. All right, and they'd have been like, yo, we'll let you in. We'll let you in. We just got to be able to stay. Yeah. All right, and bring our people up at any one point. But here's the theory. Here's the point. It didn't happen. In white America, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen because our lineage is, if not greater, it's the same. In America, we are Americans, and we've all bought into it. If anything, black Americans have
really bought into it.
Really bought into this. If you need to figure out what the hell's going on with us, all right, because if the roles were reversed, you all need to ask yourselves, would we have done the same thing? Would we have done the same thing given all the opportunities to ruin this country?
Yeah, no.
You don't realize the pool that Malcolm X, Garvey, fucking King, you don't realize the pool these men and women had to fuck all this shit up.
Yeah,
all of it.
And they didn't. And the only reason why people demonize Malcolm is because he made them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why. Because he was like, "Hey, look, by any means." And now, if these means mean I have to get violent, that just means that you're a threat to me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's crazy because I never looked at it from that angle. I never looked at it from that angle.
And point in case, and here's the example to know that we could do it. Ask the Confederates. Ask the Confederates how it worked out when we didn't buy into their nonsense. Because those were Americans too.
Mm-hmm.
The Union had a better option, clearly. So, think about that, and that's where we're at. Take down the goddamn statues, all right? That's just courtesy. Goddamn courtesy, all right? We're never going to turn our back on our country. This is our country. Like, America is our country. We're not leaving. We're not going anywhere. All right? Like you said, we want the same things that everybody else wants.
Yeah.
We just want the freedoms and the rights, and we want it all to align up. Don't get our wants and desires confused with a political agenda. All right? Because there's only fucking two.
Yeah.
There's only two, and for whatever reason we've chosen sides. There's no way we have a definitive two-way fucking view on this. There's 300 million people in our country,
300,
and we've somehow divided it down the middle, and then some people off to the side are still trying to figure it out. No, guys,
that's not how it works.
No. There's 300 different views. All right, we need to figure that the fuck out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're Americans through and through. It's not gonna change. We've had plenty of times to fuck this shit up. All right,
and we didn't.
We didn't. All right, and you need to.
Not because we couldn't though.
Yeah,
that's got me think. That's why I like talking to you, man. You always say like one or two phrases. I'm like, that's a good point. Damn, like that's a really good point. Like, nah, I never thought of that like that. I always just kind of looked at it as like these were people who saw injustices and wanted it to be better. And that's true. But they didn't go, oh, you guys aren't going to make it better for us? Call in the cavalry. Let's get this shit popping. Yeah, that was never the case. And I always kind of thought, well, it was because, like, simply it was a numbers game. You know, there's not enough black people in the country to actually do. There's, like, 40 million black people, African Americans, in America. I mean, obviously, if you play a numbers game, sure, that's not going to work out. But you think that like, that's crazy, man. Yeah.
If you want to,
that's crazy.
If you want to if you want to test it out right now, and we can get we can somehow get this going, get all these
race wars.
No, not race wars. just so we can exercise the fact that we have some pull here.
Yeah.
All right. In this environment, have all the young black athletes who are coming out of high school go to HBCUs and watch the shift in money and exposure, TV exposure. Watch that shift happen. All right. Watch the Alabamas become the Division III schools of college sports.
Yeah.
Watch it happen, and then be like, it can happen at a snap of a fingers. Like, it really could, but that's not where our desires are so much deeper.
Yeah.
And so pure that you gotta really thank whoever created this concept of the American dream, because they did a perfect fucking job, regardless of the origins of it.
Yeah, the psychological aspect of it. Yeah,
they nailed it. All right, somebody really sat down, regardless of where they come from, really sat down and said, "Yo, how do we avoid the repercussions?" And I'm pretty sure they were thinking just white folks at the time.
Yeah,
they were thinking just white folks. They could have never predicted that all that stuff was going to transpire with with black people being freed and becoming voters and all this. They could have never thought about that shit. And then all the way of us getting all those opportunities, there was always somebody or people standing in our way saying, nope, they're gonna do this. They're gonna do the wrong thing. They're gonna do the wrong, because that's what they would have done.
Projection
in our position.
Projection, yeah.
So
yeah,
and
yeah,
and everybody, and they're doing it now. They're like, oh, they're gonna do this, that, and anytime you're talking to somebody who's not directly looking at you and having a conversation with you via Facebook, whatever, whatnot, you make a comment, you make a post, they automatically assume where you're thinking, because that's where their
projections,
their minds would go.
Projection.
Like, well, they're thinking like this. Well, I'm gonna have this comment. Like, hold on a second.
It's like, how do you know? Like, let's wait a minute now. Like that's one thing, you know, talking on a personal level with me myself. That's one thing that I find now interesting, but at first very, very infuriating when people try to tell me about me based off of what little they know. You know, and it's just like, I'm the expert of me because I wake up me, I go to sleep me. Like, if somebody was like, yeah, I've been practicing brain surgery for 24 years, you'd be like, oh, this guy's an expert. But yet and still, you wouldn't try to go in and tell this person about brain surgery. But yet and still, here you are trying to tell me about me because you've had a 10-minute conversation, and it's like like that. And that's interesting. People definitely do that. It was like, well, if we do this, how do we know that they're not going to do this? And let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say some people do. Let's say some people do whatever those things are. That is the case, and you know the media is going to do their part by blowing it up and making it normal to push the division. But that aside, like even with Black Lives Matter, you know, people are saying, oh, it's a terrorist organization. That I'm like, okay, if that's your definition or whatever the definition is, let's look at an organization that has killed far more people than people who claim to be supporters of Black Lives Matter. Let's look at the KKK. Right. The KKK, by definition, isn't a terrorist organization because it has no quote-unquote political gain. But yet and still, if we did some digging and didn't die on the other end of it, we could see like, oh, wait, the head master or head chief or whatever is actually this seat in this position of power that sees this many laws and this many people, but yet and still you're worried about what we would do because that's what you're actually doing. So yeah, no, it's
facts.
It's definitely interesting how that works. It's like we have to be in the position of power because we know what it's like if we're not. Like a broader example is like people are like, in order for everyone to come together, there would have to be like some alien invasion, and we have to. And this is like what I've heard and talked to certain people who believe in those things, and I buy into it for the point I'm about to make. Yeah. They say if there was an alien invasion and they were smarter than humans, then humans would become like livestock, right? And I think the reason why people say that is because we're all aware of how we treat animals. We treat animals horribly.
Aliens might show up and be like, yo, we just want to take you back to where we're at.
Right.
And show you what you're missing out.
But and another thing, people fear what they don't know. If you look at, I'll use movies, for example. You look at any movie, anything where it's like America's under attack, they go in cautiously but prepared for the worst, right? Which makes sense. Which fair enough, makes sense. That's human instinct to do. But then the one thing, it'll be a very pivotal turning point. Something will happen. They're like, we don't know, mission abort, and then they fire the first shot, and then it's like, okay, now we're at war. Whereas that all could have taken a left turn and just been like, look, let's go in to try to understand. Still have our preparations. Still make the preparations so if shit hits the fan, you know what I'm saying, we have eye shields. But, you know, it's like the more that we don't know, the more, well, we don't know because if that, and then if maybe, if, because when, it's like, but it's like, but how can you really say? It's really just saying, I realize that I have fucked up and I don't want to give you the opportunity to fuck me up worse. So what we're going to do is oppress, no, push down. And then when I die, I don't care what happens.
Well, if you think about it, the whole Civil War situation, the whole thing between England and America, or the colonies, all right, they knew what they did. All right, they're like, yo, we have all these African men, just freedom, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like,
this could work.
What are they going to do? We can't let them just go. I imagine it was more fear then the ability that they just wanted to control them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they're like, we cannot let these people congregate because they're going to create their own Declaration of Independence. They're going to create their own colonies. And then they're gonna fight us.
People are animals, man.
And that's exactly what they had. They got their hands in power. They got their hands in control. All right, and then they said, we just released this many people, and then somebody's like, hey, 40 acres and a mule, and then somebody was like, no.
Yeah.
No. What?
Yeah.
No. If we give them stuff, then they're gonna use that stuff against us. What? And then the other guy was like, fuck, you're right. And they fucking all did it. All the while, these people were just like, man,
I can't wait until
man, let's go for a swim.
Yeah.
When we want to.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Let's not go to Texas. Because I heard some still out in Texas. Let's go.
Texas is still on the fence, let's be honest.
let's go to Nebraska. Let's see what's going on there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's start farming our own farms. Some people were like, yo, we're going to Oklahoma. This place in Tulsa, I think we can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it, and all they were doing was just living their fucking lives under the umbrella of what America was designed to do. All right? But there was a couple people.
Yeah, of course.
All right? In power, it was like, yo, that's what we did. That's what, remember the people. Oh, not happening.
Yeah.
Nope. Now, in part, they were probably like, also, they were like, they had a superiority complex, Now,
ego as well.
Yes,
yeah,
and coupled with their fears.
That's just a concoction for disaster in any civilization.
It was going to happen, and it continues to happen all up into this point. They're like, they call the riots, and it was like, oh, destroy, because that's what they would do if they were pushed to that level. They know they would destroy just as much. Like, everybody's like, oh, black people are like, we're going to burn this shit to the ground. No, we're not. No, we're not. I'll call that bluff right now. We will not burn this thing to the ground. Before we burn this shit to the ground, all right?
So much has to happen.
It has to happen. But before we do that, we will become incredibly organized. Before we get to that point of burning everything to the ground, we will become incredibly organized because it's not in our American DNA as black Americans to do that. Our thing, when we get really fucked up, is we become really organized. When we get pushed in that corner, we become really organized. We become really together. We get really together, and we morph into whatever the environment needs us to be for the coming future.
And I think that's how we survived.
That's exactly
segregation and slavery was that we came together and we kind of like, okay, this is what we need to do now. And then 10 years, 15 years, okay, this is what we need, okay. And then, but I feel like that's evolution as well. It's like as the environment changes, you go, damn, I can't outrun this jaguar anymore. I need to figure out ways around that. And then you evolve and you evolve and you evolve. And then other people see that where they're in a position of power, they're not really evolving as fast because they don't have to, because they're top dog. But they see that coming up and they're like, we have to oppress. We have to oppress in order to keep order, in order to keep hierarchy. And it is fear, it is ego, it is all these other things. But I definitely think, the start of the way forward is, again, looting back, is to look inside and go, man, what we did was pretty fucked up. And no one has really had to answer to it.
Well, that's the thing. Unfortunately, the people who didn't do the fucking shit up have to answer to that.
And I do agree that is fucked up. Because I'll put myself in that situation. If I was a straight white man in America, a black dude and a white dude in America, that came out weird. But
we know what you're trying to say.
I'm sorry, Mom. But if that was the case, and someone was like, yo, you have to essentially pay for my problems, I'd be like, no, I don't. Why would I have to do that? And I do think that part of it is messed up. And I used to, and like when people would talk about like, equality, I would think of it as like, okay, you're just running from the responsibility of having to answer from your ancestors. But at the same time, it's like that person is only benefiting from what dead people have already done. So in order to not repeat the cycle, equality is the answer.
And if they don't do it, unfortunately, their kids are gonna have to
do it.
and the cycle will continue as long. And this is what's going to happen too. Now, it's not just like, they're holding strong on that wall. No. This was going to happen. As time goes on, all right, power is going to slowly shift. All right, black people would appreciate it if they took some ownership and took some responsibility in that regards. But what's going to happen is they're going to continue to do their thing. Like you said, we're going to, as a community, we're going to just morph into whatever the situation has. Eventually, you're going to see more black congressmen, more black congresswomen. You're going to see probably a black president or a black female president. At some point. Eventually, we're going to become more ingrained into our government. At which point, if you kick the ball down the road long enough, all right, the next generation, the generation that has to deal with it, all right, they're just gonna be ass out, all right. It's like it doesn't matter what you think now, because now laws are changing, all right. Now
that's evolution.
It's like now we are going to divvy up land. All right, because of this. Now we are going to break up certain companies.
And I think that's why history repeats itself as well.
Yeah.
Is because it's that cycle. It's the push and pull. I mean, but I think that's the world. That's the universe. I think that the universe, one of the laws of the universe is delayed gratification. Because there's people that are alive right now whose grandparents were slaves. You know what I'm saying? My dad lived through segregation. And I can see how that has shaped his ego and his mindset as opposed to mine. I remember being a little kid. I'd be like, man, dad's so racist. Like, he's like, he hates white people. It's like, but then like I got older and I like talked to him, and I was like, it's not that he hates white people. He just had a completely different experience with them. A lot of his problems, derived from white people being like, no, you can't work here. No, you can't do that. It was just like, I'm just trying to like, and eventually you kick someone enough, they're gonna react. That's just how we are. That's how we're programmed. So I was like, nah, like it's just different. Whereas my experience with white people, it wasn't like that all the time. I had black people that hated me, and I had white people that loved me, and so on and so forth. So it made it easier for me to go, maybe that person's just a piece of shit, which I believe. I think it's an individual case. But when you're in a place where not a lot of people look like you, and there's the golden rule that some people are shitty, but all those people that have been shitty to you in your lifetime, that's gonna change your perspective, because that becomes your truth, and that's what you believe. And then, unfortunately, parents project that onto their kids and so on and so forth. But I was like, man, like I can't really imagine what it would be like to grow up, in the country, and then moving to the city, and then really seeing how people treat you simply because you look different.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And once I really kind of deeped that, I was like, okay, I get it now. I don't agree with it, but I understand it, and I feel like that's what it comes down to. You gotta try to understand the other side, and go, okay, I see why our perspectives are different, but at the end of the day, the goal is the same. The goal is the same thing. Another thing that you said that was interesting, we were talking about the right and wrong side of history. I thought that was very interesting. Do you think so? Like you said, do you think that with the power changing, I feel like the driving force of that is being on the right or wrong side of history? For example, we're talking about today's white America has to pay for, generations past white America's
and sometimes it's not
atrocities.
Sometimes it's not even just like any monetary thing. Sometimes it's just acknowledging it.
That is true.
Sometimes it's just acknowledging the reality. Like me and you, we were on a call that a long time ago, a couple months ago. And the chaplain just comes up to us.
It's like, hey, I just want to know.
That
was really cool.
Blowing.
That made my day though. Like, cause I was like, he came literally as humbly as anyone could. He was just like, hey, I see what's going on. I hear what's going on. I'm not coming to you as like an officer. I'm just coming to you like, how has this affected you, and what can I do?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like this is enough. This is a start at least. And
just acknowledging that I'm having a different experience. Like obviously I'm not in any current oppression. All right, but as a Black American, I'm experiencing this whole thing differently than you are as a white American. And the fact that he could see that.
He got that, yeah.
And he just like, yo, I know what I'm experiencing. all right, but there's no way all black people are just this super oppressed. But they're all saying the same thing. I gotta ask somebody.
You know, and that was kind of the thought process I ran through when my homegirl called me out on the you know, how I reacted to when she brought up the issues with the transgender community. I was like, well, obviously I'm not transgender, but if this is a movement, there's got to be validity to it. You know, there's not going to be a group of people saying the same thing if there's no validity to it, because the truth would come out and it would be like, actually that's not the case. But when I really like thought about it from that perspective, I was like, okay, yeah, no, maybe saying, all right, man, if that's what you want, okay, is enough. It's I don't have to understand it completely or agree or, you know, just, all right, dude, I'm not a threat to, I know, I'm not a threat to your cause. You know, if that's what you need from me, okay. And we can keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying? Just, okay. And, you know, that really kind of made my day at the time when he was just like, yeah, man, like, I just want to know, you know, like, can you educate me? And I feel like we really made a connection with him. You know, I feel like when we were just telling him about life, like when we had the discussion at the firehouse where everyone sat in, you had a lot of people that were quiet, but I know I spoke up and you spoke up, and it was just like, yeah, like I've gone through this. I remember the first time I got called the N-word, I was 9, and this kid was 13, and I wasn't upset or angry at that person in particular, but I just was like, my thought process was, okay,
That's what's happening.
no, like my thought process was like, someone just called me this, and my parents told me if someone called me that to beat them up, and if I don't, and my mom finds out, I'm gonna get my ass beat. So I was like, I gotta do something. So I fought this kid. This kid was tall as fuck. You know, I was like 9 years old, just fucking beating him up.
They need to know something's coming from him.
No, and like at the end, the cops came and like his mom was yelling at me, and I was like, I don't know why she's upset. I just did what my mom was like, what my parents told me, and then my mom showed up, and you know, shit got real. But you know, I got in the car, and my mom was just like, "Are you okay?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Like, it was just another day at summer camp for me. But I remember that like as I grew up, and I was like, yeah, I never really had like that hatred. Like I wasn't angry at the dude. I was just looking at it as like, I got to do what my parents say so I don't get in trouble for what this person did. So I was just like, you know, and just it just went in from there. And you know, I came back to the camp. Obviously, he left, and everyone was like, "Oh man, you know, you beat up so and so," and I was just like, I mean, I just did what my parents like. I just kept telling everyone, I just did what my dad and my mom told me to do. You know, and now I haven't experienced direct racism like that for a very long time, mainly because I've been in the military. Indirect racism, that's a whole different conversation. But direct racism, I haven't experienced that in a while, especially being in England. England, they indulge in diet racism. It's very watered down in England. It's not like American racism. American racism knocks on your door, you know what I'm saying? Wakes you up out of bed, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you got to get up. But like English racism, it's like, what is that? That's oppression? Really? This early? Wow. Okay. You know, it's very watered down, and it was interesting, you know, to kind of talk about those topics because it wasn't directed in people's faces. It just made it easier to miss. Whereas in America, people still miss it, but you know, you have cases where you could be like, "Well, explain this," and they're like, "I'm sorry," you know. It's like, and it's like it is what it is, you know. But yeah, no, it's definitely, I think that's definitely the way forward. I think that's what I'm going to call this episode, the way forward. I didn't know what I was going to call it, but I felt like I would just go with the context of the conversation. But I think that's the way forward, is to ultimately look at yourself on the inside and go, right, this is where I'm at, you know, this is where I would like to be in order, you know, for the next generation of like black people, white people, transgender people, you know, whoever, to really just feel safe and feel like they are okay, like they're valid, like they don't have to fight, like there doesn't need to be a Black Lives Matter or a Trans Lives Matter. It's just like, we know that we matter. That's the baseline.
Yeah.
And then everything else is individualized depending on this, you know, if you're a shitty person, all right, then you're a shitty person. But like, let's talk about why. Like, but I feel like that'll happen as well as we start to kind of really pay attention to mental health. excuse me, because we understand that the mind is the most powerful thing that we have. I mean, everything, every infrastructure, network, everything comes from the human brain and evolution, right? So we can understand that the mind is the most important thing that we have, yet and still we downplay mental health, which is very, very paradoxical and kind of hypocritical. But I kind of feel like I feel like it's getting better, you know. I feel like it's slowly getting better, and I feel like by the time I'm older, like, you know, 70, 80, I'll be like, all right, this is pretty fair, you know. Like, everyone's kind of at the basis of, like, you're a human, and with that comes the right to feel safe. You know, those basic needs are met because we all understand that we're human. And then you can go from there, like, do you want to be in a business, college, whatever, you know. It kind of goes and integrates into that, you know. So I feel like that is the way forward.
Yeah, we're at a moment, in time where, when it comes to mental health, where it's like a renaissance, if you will. It's like we're just right there on. It's like in correlation to that time in history where we were shifting from the church telling us how the natural world worked to letting science and just studying the natural world.
Those gray years when, like, the people who believe in the old were dying out and the new,
Yep, and the enlightenment of just the natural world and understanding it, and physics and all those other things. I think that's where we're at that point where we're finally saying, you know, it's something you really need to focus on. All right, there's a lot more happening with our minds than we know.
Yeah,
like, it's literally in some cases, like, your mind can affect your physiological without even moving. So I think we're right there. We're at that point. In 100 years from now, we're gonna be like,
oh yeah, for sure.
You're not even gonna be able to pinpoint where it happened, but we're gonna be so far. We're gonna take off on this subject so far into the future that you're not gonna be able to recognize who we are.
Yeah.
So
I would definitely. I mean, I don't think I'll live to be 124, but I would definitely like to be alive, you know, older and older, to really see how the world has changed. You'd be like, man, I remember in, like, 2020 when, like, this was a thing, like cancel culture is a thing, you know what I mean? And I kind of feel like in some cases it's an overcorrect. I think there's validity to it, but I also think in some cases it's like a knee-jerk reaction to people just being offended by things as opposed to someone actually being a piece of shit, you know? And I feel like, you know, 100 years, 80 years, whatever the case may be, looking back and go, like, I feel like this is better, you know. I feel like this is, and I feel like that happens, like, with older people who, like, live through segregation. They're like, this is better, you know, like, this is what it should be. Now obviously there's always going to be issues, but with that is the attempt to grow, you know, the attempt to be better. Like, obviously things are better for black people now in America than they were, you know, 150 years ago. Even things are better, you know. It would be naive to say that they aren't. It's not to say that things are perfect. But things are things are better.
Grew up with.
Yeah. But yeah,
and it'll be the same. Better. It'll be the same for us too. But it's where we're at.
Yeah.
I try to, and I think you had a little video about patience.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah, I dropped that yesterday.
And that's all it is. It's just you got to exercise patience.
Yes.
With the current environment, like we are.
That also kills your ego as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That all, like, that's, you know, like I said in the video, that's like like for me it was conversation, because if you're talking to people that always agree with you, you never hear that other side. You know, if I only talk to dudes about feminism, I would pretty much hear the same thing. You know what I mean? But if I talk to a woman who's a feminist, she's going to say some things that are going to challenge how I feel, obviously. I'm going to say things that challenge how she feels. But that's how you learn. And it's like, damn, I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Now, obviously, if it gets into name calling, that's different. But I can't go into the situation and conversation thinking that's where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Because then I'm closed off to any changes in my own, you know, thought process. That's just how I'm wired as a person, right? And yeah, like patience was hard for me, man. Patience was not something I am good at, even now. It's something that every day. Every day I have to try.
You'll never be perfect at patience. Patience is a tool to be wielded to a certain degree, depending on the situation. Yeah, you just gotta. You'll never be perfect at it, but you'll always, whatever situation you encounter, will always build onto it. So if you just keep exercising it, you'll know when to implement it based off your experiences. You'll know when to implement it when it needs to be implemented. I like the younger version, like the 5 years, 6 year older or younger version of me. Like, I don't think I could have a conversation with that person. I don't think I could have a conversation. That person would probably understand, like, why do I never say it? Like, why does the older version don't say anything? And I'm like, because you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I just gotta let you talk, because that's the only way you learn is if you let people continue to talk.
The truth will come out.
Yeah, the truth will come out, and they'll talk themselves. In some cases into a paradox, and they'll
either deny it or they'll realize their own hypocrisy.
Exactly, and then when they do, then that's when I'm like, there you go.
That's where I stand. You know, that gray area that you just blinked. Like the best example I can give, and we're gonna wrap it up here shortly. I know you got places to be, things to do.
And that's also why you're going to love a woman again.
So here's the thing. Now, I was waiting for you to bring that up. I won't be in love again.
Yeah, you will.
No, I won't. I won't. And here's why. Why I won't. I will tell you. I will break it down to you as far as I've gotten into my breaking down process. Okay. The reason why I won't be in love again is because I don't know how to be in love without foregoing my purpose.
Yes.
And because I have given up my purpose for being in love before, and it hasn't worked out, I am now not willing to be in that headspace. I look at relationships and loving a woman completely different than I did then. Will I love again? Yeah, I'll love a woman again, but I won't be in love. Is the thing.
I like how your voice gets good on this one.
I won't be in love. You saw that Instagram post too?
Yeah. So
I won't be in love again. No, I won't.
Everything you just said, and I know we got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Everything you just said is the exact reason. The pinpoint reason, and I know this. The reason I know this is because there was a moment in my life, all right, and I want to give it away to you, but I can't because we made a bet.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not even about winning that money. It's about knowing I'm right, because I do know I'm right. All right. So.
Oh man.
So, the only thing I'm gonna say to speak on that, is what if your purpose is that love?
What if my purpose is that love?
It's not even really a what if. But for the sake of you, it will. I'm gonna pose it as that.
I think that you get to choose your purpose though. Because I think that some people, they're obviously born into like, okay, this is your purpose to be the next head of the family, but they're like, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Do I want to be in love again right now? No, I don't. In 10 years, ask me in 10 years. Maybe that'll change. Right now, I just got off the phone with my friend Michael. These are my grinding years.
Yeah.
These are the years that I'm working on myself, financially, like I said, investing in myself, financially, physically, so on and so forth. And now, if I get to a point to where I'm like, okay, I'm happy in all of this, I want to start dating again, to look for a woman to love, not be in love with, then I get to choose that.
So, all I'm going to say is, what if your purpose is you being in love? And when it happens, I want you to ask yourself. I want you when you know it, when you're like, yo, I'm in love. And then I want you to ask yourself, what if my purpose is being in love with this person? And when that happens, I want you to pay me and I want you to call me. It doesn't have to happen in that order.
Okay.
All right.
Well, if that is the case, and I don't see it, I know
you don't.
I don't see it at all. So I can't
I could tell you how you would see it, but I'm not going to.
Okay, yeah, all right, because you're petty. But I don't agree with it because I think that you get to choose. But if I was like, you know what, this woman's been down for me, whatever the case may be, I choose to allow myself to love like that again and be in love if I have the capacity to. Then okay. Do I think that'll happen? No. Do I see it happening? No.
So this
But I know, again, this is 24-year-old version of me speaking. You ask me again at 25, it might change, 26, whatever the case may be. But right now, my purpose doesn't rely on the love of a woman. My purpose relies on my own personal and self-growth. And that is something that makes me passionate. Like you said earlier, that is something that I love making YouTube videos. I love doing the podcast and having this back and forth kind of verbal jabs. Like, this is what I love.
I really hope, I really hope that, and I'm going to speak to the people right now.
Okay.
Don't give it away. If you know, don't give it away.
Someone's going to give it away.
Don't. Because I need the money. I don't need the money. I want the money. Okay?
Oh, man.
And
you're gonna be
petty. And two, I want him to call me. And I want him to want to be mad. But he can't be mad. All right?
Oh, man.
So whoever knows, don't tell him.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up then. Any final thoughts on anything that we talked about? I know we kind of covered a lot of things from personal matters to broad issues, but I ultimately feel like, I won't ever be in love. Let's get that off the table. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm talking to the people. All right. But, you brought up a very good point about how black people could have turned America on its head, but chose not to due to their belief in the American dream. I thought that was very interesting. What are your final thoughts on the overall discussion, man?
This is a great discussion, man. I think we all need to have more discussions, either just internally with ourselves or with groups of people. Try to find somebody that has a different perspective on it, and obviously it's not going to be hostile towards you.
Yeah.
And they just want to try to understand everything that's happening. Just try to love one another and then love yourself. That's if you can't love yourself, then you can't love anybody else.
I agree with
all
that.
Right?
Yeah.
And seeing how
there we go.
You love yourself.
Yep. Here we go.
Right? You've already made the first step.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, this has been another episode of What Suits You, episode The Way Forward. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys on the next episode. This has been Combat Kid with Jamal Taylor. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.